Good morning. Thank you for having me today. I really appreciate it. To introduce myself, I am Kurt Whitesell, and I own several companies, and we'll go through all of that. But primarily, I own WKRP&D Real Estate, which is a full-service real estate company based out of Westfield, Indiana. And personally, I specialize in commercial land listings, but we do just about everything as a company. We also own Our family owns a couple of Greek's Pizzas. One is in Westfield on Park Street, and then we built from scratch the one in Sheridan on Main Street. And then lastly, our family also owns some rental properties in Sheridan. We have some mixed-use properties that have like retail tenants and apartments upstairs. And then we also have a couple of industrial properties, I guess I'd say, some land holdings, but mostly just rental business properties that little companies are enjoying on Main Street in Sheridan. It's been fun to be part of that whole, hopefully, revitalization. So, the way I got started was in about 2008. I realized the hard way that I was unemployed. I had no customers and I was broke. The group I worked for was a group of investors, entrepreneurs, and they owned some real estate, and they hired me to manage the real estate, basically, and then also do the marketing for it, the lease ups, and then the maintenance. And well, we had maintenance people, obviously, but I managed the maintenance and stuff like that. And in the recession time, right before the recession, actually, these guys decided they'd had enough, and they were cutting it back. And part of the cutting it back was me. And while I thought that we had a deal to extend, or just so that I was kind of taken care of, I guess, we did it. And very quickly I learned how dependent I was on that job, and really how broke I was, and how my back was against the wall. So I left that company. They had my car. I had a car with them. They paid my cell phone bill. They paid a lot of my expenses. I had some meals every once in a while. I had a lot of flexibility on my schedule. They paid for my gas. I mean, I've spent a lot of money on gas. And so when I started, I thought, I've got to go sell real estate on my own, but I got this. So I signed on to the closest real estate company. There was a Century 21 office just outside of my neighborhood because I could walk there. And it was easy. I could ride my bike there. It was very convenient. And since I didn't have my own car, that would help. And so I signed on there. And quickly, I realized I'm pretty intuitive on myself. I'm pretty self-aware. Maybe not. I don't see out a lot, but once I get going, I'm pretty conscious of what's going on. I realized I didn't have a single customer. I realized I had no branding. I had no market share or recognition. I had no money. I had no business. And so it was all on me. And so I left this, what I thought was a secure job, the security of a job, and excitement. I thought we were building something. I was a part of something, to going to nothing and almost closing in on myself, where it was like, oh, I have nothing. How do I can't get out of this. But I persevere, obviously. When you've got two kids at home and you're 30 and a wife that are counting on you to provide, you get to work. So immediately I started thinking, how can I get out of this? And I started calling. I mean, I was the cold call guy. I got the phone book out and called from the Z's forward. But I spent my time in this office building for Century 21. It was close by, working what I thought was working. It took me 9 months to get my first deal. And when the guy came in, the owner of that brokerage came in and handed me my check. And he had this grin ear to ear as if we'd made it finally. Aha, yes, great job. And I looked at the check, and over half of the check, maybe more, was gone. And it was due to I had 9 months of fees caught up to. I had 9 months of the copy machine I had to pay for. I had 9 months of online crap. And because of that, I had to pay all that back. And so this one deal I did that was like my saving grace, I got less than half of what I was expecting. So I had to go home, tell my wife, what the heck, here we are. But immediately, when that guy handed me that check, I realized his greed and his desperation was put way higher than the long-term relationship and my potential. He needed that money real quick. He took it. And so twice I realized that being dependent on other people for my outcome was not secure. And right then I realized that Kurt is the most security. I have total confidence in myself. And unless I have total control over everything in my destiny, I'm dependent on someone else making decisions for me. So that day, I called my friend John Brooks, who owned a digital marketing company, websites, things like that. And I said, we're starting my own company, my own brokerage. You're right, because I think he told me that from day one. So he helped me with the website, logos, branding, things like that. And I started WKRP Indie Real Estate. Now, WKRP Indie Real Estate, the name comes from, there was a show called WKRP in Cincinnati that very popular in the 80s and 90s, maybe 80s, especially with like my family and my extended family. It was odd, but I need something recognizable. There's a lot of Tuckers, Century 21s, and I thought that those brands were strong, which obviously they weren't for me. But so I started a company, WKRP Indie, and it stands for Weitzel Kids Retirement Plan. And I, secondly, had to distinguish myself amongst, there's like 6,000, I don't know, 12,000 realtors in this market. And we're talking during the recession. So there's no buyers, there's a bunch of sellers, there's no money. Talk about depressing, having to fight over deals. This was it. So I needed something to distinguish myself. And I'd gone to a Rainmakers event recently, and Tony Celso said, you have to niche. You have to be sell specifically or market specifically, sell generally. And you have to be memorable. And that resonated with me. So I said, I'm only going to list property on State Road 32 in Westfield. And I'm going to preach that message all day long. And every time I go to a meeting and talk to someone, I'm going to say, hi, I'm Kurt Whitesell. I own WKRP in Real Estate. It's a full service real estate company, and we specialize in listing commercial property on State Road 32 in Westfield. And when you drill down your market to like a 5-mile stretch of real estate, it gets people's attention. I, for the next 15 years, or we 15 years, whatever we are, have rarely not been recognized as the Westfield guy. Very quickly, when people are all just like, yeah, I'll sell you anything, I stood out in a messy crowd. I stood out amongst realtors. I stood out amongst commercial brokers. Wow, did I stand out amongst commercial brokers? Because not only was I a niche, I was independent. And I was so tight on my niche, and I never stopped preaching this story. Now, I sold bikes. I'd sell anything to make $1. I'd sold houses. I had great time selling houses. Thank God my friends and family used me. We sold some homes to make a living. We did leases. We did just about anything. But I focused and I was adamant about being a Westfield, Indiana downtown realtor. And it took a long time. And we went broke. We got so far behind. But once the world came back and once the business came back to my area, which was everywhere at the same time. But once it came back, and I just so happened to be poised in Westfield, not by, not I wasn't brilliant for this idea. Mostly it was out of desperation because I knew I could walk, I could drive, borrow a car, but it got me some attention nobody else was talking about. And so to this day, I cannot have a sign on State Road 32 in Westfield. And people say, oh yeah, I see your signs all the time on State Road 32 in Westfield. You can't beat that. So I got a niche and I got my hustle. Now, how do I get the word out? So I went crazy with social media. I remember when I started, wasn't in college. So I didn't do the early Facebook stuff and the MySpace stuff. But I quickly learned about LinkedIn and realized that I had an audience. And I don't know how many of you are doing networking, but going on one-on-ones are phenomenal. They're phenomenal to get to know someone past that first, hi, how are you, and what do you do? Great way to build a relationship, long-term business. But you can't afford really to go one, and make a living. So in my head, to me, it was my marketing tool, and it was cheap because I didn't have any money. And so I got on LinkedIn, excuse me, I got on Facebook, and I created a habit and to be very intentionally and driven to use social media as my outlet for my business and to spread the word. And while I thought maybe I was being annoying, and maybe some other people thought I was being annoying, I went to Facebook and LinkedIn and told my story every single day. I told my story that I'm Kurt Whitesell, family guy. I sell real estate, and it's in Westfield. Those three things. And I set times, I set reminders. You're going to post at this time, post at this time. And I worked very, very hard at creating a system that can market and build my business. So I got total confidence in myself, and I've got total control of my destiny. I created a niche and a product to sell people that's identifiable. And then I created a way to spread the word through social media and committed to it 100%. And I have not let off of any of that since day one. And today, while I'm not some wealthy, the money just pouring in guy, I feel like I have a very strong business. I have a very strong market share, and I have great recognition in this community for real estate. And what that's been able to do is it's created, first of all, I think a great income. I think having a great business and a great job and a great income that you're not dependent on someone else to make your decision is the dream. But it's also freed us up for me I have a lot of ideas for us to do things like own Greeks pizzerias with the Beauchamps, own real estate in Sheridan, and manage it well and apply my skills from my day job to our investments and work on the legacy, the future, whatever it is. But if I hadn't lost my job with that group of investors initially, and been forced to realize how bad I had it off once I was gone. That's not a sad story. To be forced to acknowledge my situation. And had I not had the experience of working at the Century 21 office and recognizing that, once again, without me controlling my destiny, I'm asking for trouble and I'm definitely not someone else's priority. And until I realized and had the confidence in myself to create my own brand and expect and rely on myself to hustle and sell something that I'm really good at, I was not going to be successful. And while there's brokers that are more successful than me, many, most of them, I don't know, many of them, I feel successful. I'm happy, I'm content, and I absolutely love what I do as things progress. And there's been bad times. There's been more slow times. Right now, it's not a very busy time in real estate, as you may know. But I'm committed, and I will not stop hustling, being confident in myself, being niche and selling State Road 32 real estate in Westfield, and marketing and using inexpensive, effective tools like social media to spread the word. And I can repeat that over and over again with any listing, any piece of real estate, also with any business or any product that I invest in or work on. And that's what entrepreneurship to me is. And I hope that all of you or some of you can relate a little bit to this or apply this down the road, and hopefully it's helpful, because it's everything to me. And I love to see it progress. And I'd love to see other people ask me questions about, hey, tell me about your niche, or you're crazy to pick such a small niche, or man, you post a lot on social media, or we know everything about you on social media, or what's been successful on social media. Well, I can tell you. And while I don't have 1 million followers, that's not what I'm chasing. I'm chasing good content and effective content. I'm chasing a small niche. I'm hustling hard. And I think anybody can do it. If I'm able to do that and discover that through some really hard times, I I think anybody can do it. So hopefully this was helpful. I'm glad to answer any questions. I'm glad to follow up with anybody, connect with anybody if they'd like, and I'm glad to meet with anybody. But I really want to be a resource, and hopefully you learned a little bit from me today. Have a great day.